Dear students, today let us discuss about the life cycle of Asteriasis as Echinoderm larvae. So we see that in most of the Asteriasis they are unisexual, that is dioecious, except few like Asteriasis rubens, which is hermaphrodite. The two sexes are alike both externally and internally. You just can't make out any difference at all because externally also they look similar, as well as internally also when you dissect and see that they will be almost similar, except in the breeding season they will appear differently, male and female. Reproductive organs are primitive without copulatory organs or accessory glands. They have gonads which act as reproductive organs. Now let us see the structure of the gonads here. Here you see in the starfish diagram, the male gonads are the testes and the female gonads are the ovaries. As I said, both of them appear similar. Both of them appear similar. Whereas sexual mature male or female has 5 pairs of testes or the ovaries, one in each arm lying laterally between the pyloric caeca and the ampullae of the tube feet. Here in the diagram, one set of the gonads are exposed which appears light blue in color. So they are the gonads. Each gonad appears as elongated, feathery tuft or tubules consisting of rounded follicles. The proximal end of the gonad is attached to the arboreal body wall by a short ciliated gonoduct which opens laterally through a small gonopore interradially between the two adjacent arms. The gonad is enclosed in a genital sinus which encloses a cellular cord called genital rachis that is continuous with arboreal end of the genital stolon. Genital stolon is responsible for the formation of new germ cells or sex cells. On the other diagram, you see that the gonads appear light purple in color or pinkish in color, which also has a connection which is called as the gonoduct, which connects to the body, and this extends from the central region to the tip of the arm. So here you see in the next step that how fertilization occurs, right? The sex cells or the gametes are shed in the sea. Both the male and the female are present in the aquatic medium and both of them shed the gametes. The male sheds the sperms and the female sheds the ovum in the water body simultaneously at a time in the sea, and hence fertilization or union of the gametes is external. All of you know that when the fertilization occurs externally, it always occurs in the water medium. It occurs in the water medium itself, right? And this type of fertilization is called as external fertilization. The sperm that comes in contact with the egg rapidly penetrates, leaving its flagellum outside. So this always happens in any type of fertilizations, in the sense in any animals. So the tail will be left out and the head will enter into the ovum. Its entry initiates a series of physiochemical changes in preventing the entry of other sperms. The sperm nucleus fuses with the egg nucleus, resulting in the formation of the zygote. So here I just want to repeat that its entry, the sperm's entry initiates a series of physiochemical changes, right? So these physiochemical changes occurs. So when the sperm enters and it prevents the entry of other sperms, right? So all of you know that only one sperm fertilizes the ovum or enters into the ovum and not more than one. In that case, it is called as polyspermy, and polyspermy in some animals occurs, but it is not viable, in the sense it does not continue in the development. Now let us see the next step, that is development. The fertilized egg is with little amount of yolk. So this type of egg which has little amount of yolk is called as isolysythal or microlysythal. Lysythal is the yolk, micro is very little amount. Therefore, this type of egg is called as isolysythal or microlysythal egg. So here the first step is the cleavage, which is followed by blastulation and then gastrulation and then formation of the larvae, right? So here you see that the first stage is the cleavage, and the cleavage occurs or starts with the formation of 2 cells, then 4 cells, then 8 cells, then 16, then it goes on, right? So which is called as cleavage. And the just beginning of the blastula, the stage is called as morula. Morula is a ball of cells which in the diagram you see that after the starfish 1 2 3 4, fourth diagram, so that is the morula and it's a ball of cells, right? So further division do not occur. Later on this enters into the next phase, that is blastulation. Now in case of blastulation, here you see that it what type of division occurs here is holoblastic and equal. That is, holoblastic is the whole egg involves itself in the cleavage, right? In the cleavage, and it is equal, converting the single cell zygote into a ball of cells, right? And this is also called as coeloblastula because it is spherical. The coeloblastula has a fluid filled in the cavity called as blastocele. So the cavity which is present in the blastula is called as blastocele. Now this blastula enters into the next stage, that is gastrulation. So here you see that just below the blastula, here you see the gastrula, which is also called as early gastrula. I am referring the diagram. So this early gastrula, here you see it becomes double layered, whereas blastula is single layered. And this gastrula also you see that is the movement of the layer internally, right? So that is the beginning of gastrula. The single layered coeloblastula invaginates. This entry of the layer into the coelom is called as invagination to form two layered structure with outer ectoderm and inner endoderm. The new cavity is now called as archenteron, which has an opening called blastopore, which becomes the larval anus, which is a characteristic feature of deuterostomes. Remember the term deuterostomes. Deuterostomes meaning the condition where the blastopore becomes the larval anus, right? The two more openings appear on the surface of the larvae, so ventral mouth and a dorsal pore. The growing tip of the archenteron buds off. In the next diagram you see the archenteron which invaginates inside gives off two lateral branches, and these branches also buds off mesenchyme cells into the blastoceles. So you can see that the budding of the lateral branches occur in the late gastrula. In the next step you see that the formation of the coelom. The archenteron itself becomes differentiated into two parts. The proximal narrow part, which becomes the stomach and the intestine, while the wide distal part is called enterocele, which forms two lateral pouches which cut off as coelomic sacs, which are responsible for the formation of the coelom and water vascular system. Dear students, you remember what is water vascular system, which we have discussed earlier, and these are the ones, that is the coelomic sacs, which are responsible for the formation of the water vascular system. Now it is a free swimming larvae. So you see, it gives rise to the larvae, and there are two types of larvae in the life cycle of Asteriasis. The first one is the Bipinnaria and the second one is Brachyolaria. In the diagram you see that Bipinnarian larvae, they are two in number. First one is the early Bipinnaria and the second one is the late Bipinnaria. So this, after this gastrulation, that is late gastrulation, it gives rise to the larval stage, that is the early Bipinnaria, which is very much different from the late Bipinnaria. It undergoes lot of modifications, lot of changes, right? And when you see this Bipinnarian larva, this develops from the zygote in about a week. It is a bilaterally symmetrical larvae which possesses a pre-oral and a post-oral ciliated band, and various projections emerging from the body corresponds to the arms. You see in the diagram, especially in the late Bipinnaria, many oral ciliary bands are seen, and the projections emerge from the body, right? And these are called as dorsomedian, ventromedian, anterodorsal, preorals, postorals, posterior dorsals, and posterior laterals. As the name itself says, the dorsomedian, which is present in the median, that is in the center, ventromedian, which is present in the center but ventrally, anterior dorsal, which is present in the anterior region on the dorsal side, the preorals, which are present just in front of the mouth, postorals, present just after the mouth, and posterior dorsals on the posterior region on the dorsal side. These projections are seen, and the last one, posterior laterals. So you see on the dorsal side posteriorly there are projections. These are called as posterior laterals. So all these are the names of the projections which emerge out of the larvae. Inside the body, coelomic apparatus and alimentary canal appears. Alimentary canal, which later on develops into a complete digestive system. So in the early stages, it feeds on diatoms and many other microorganisms by the ciliary current of the lobes. By the ciliary current of the lobes, and gets transformed into a brachyolarian larvae. So in the diagram you see that after the late Bipinnarian larvae, it gives rise to the next larvae, which is called as the brachyolarian larvae. So this brachyolarian larvae, it's very much different from the Bipinnarian larvae. Here you see that the side lobes of the Bipinnarian larvae increases in length to become long with slender, and these becomes the anterior arms. You can see in the diagram of the brachyolarian larvae, it also gives rise, it is actually elongated when compared to the Bipinnarian larvae, and it also gives off number of branches also laterally, right? These are also called as arms. it gives rise to the pre-oral arms, gives rise to the three processes called as brachiolarial arms. Now these are called as brachiolarial arms, which have internally coelomic prolongings and possess adhesive cells at the tip which functions as suckers. In the diagram you see that towards your left side there are three projections, and these three projections also ends in a bulb like structure. These are called as tips, which are adhesive in functions. It sticks to the substratum. These function as suckers by which the larvae becomes attached to any substratum at the beginning of the metamorphosis. So the main difference between the Bipinarian larvae and the Brachiolarian larvae is Bipinarian larvae is a free living form, whereas Brachiolarian larvae is an attached form. It attaches to the substratum, right? And in the next diagram you see that it is standing straight, right? So here you see it slowly lifts its side upright, right? And completely attaches to the substratum. Now, this brachiolarian larvae undergoes metamorphosis. When you see metamorphosis, this occurs about 6 to 7 weeks. The brachiolarian larvae settles at the bottom of the water and gets fixed to the substratum by these adhesive arms. Now, the bilaterally symmetrical larvae metamorphoses into a radial symmetrical adult. The larval mouth and anus closes. A new mouth is formed on the left side, which is also called as the oral opening or oral aperture, and anus on the right side, that is on the aboral side. 5 lobes called arm rudiments grow around oral aboral axis, and in later stages the skeletal elements and water-vascular system develops. In the diagram of the brachiolarian larvae, you see that the anterior side, the posterior side, it attaches itself to the substratum, whereas in the anterior side you see a rudimentary starfish inside, and then this pinches off or cuts off from the remaining part and then swims freely. And in the next diagram you see the young starfish. Here you see all other structures, all other systems starts developing, especially the water vascular system. Already the digestive system has developed, started in the early Bipinarian larvae itself, wherein you see the mouth, gut and the anus. The same features you see in the late Bipinarian larvae also. So already the digestive system has started to develop, and it would have developed completely by then. And here the water vascular system have developed now, and then slowly it metamorphosizes into an young starfish, which of course grows and develops into an adult, either male or female starfish. I hope you have understood, students. Thank you.